It's nice to be surprised with a weird request. I was not expecting that you would be interested in this coat, but you were, and I'm a crowd pleaser, so here we are. Okay, maybe it's not that weird that someone asks me if I can make a video about the coat, but I found it still a little... I was surprised that someone was interested in the coat, but I will tell you everything about the coat. I started making this coat just before it got super hot here. This was maybe in April or something, maybe in March. And it took me like probably over a month to finish the coat. Not necessarily because, the coat was that difficult, but well, yeah, actually maybe because of that, but it was more that I didn't find like the energy to kind of try to overcome the difficulties. Before making this coat, I have mainly sewn like blouses, some pants, but usually like I've only had like a couple of patterns for pants. I made some shirts, shorts, and pieces that don't require too much sewing and that aren't that like complicated to make, and I've used patterns that are quite beginner friendly, and I've also like just freestyled and done things like from my head or just kind of tried to figure it out as I was like learning how to sew. But this project was definitely the hardest one I've done ever, and I wanted to challenge myself, but also I really wanted like a very long coat. I don't like buying fast fashion. I actually haven't bought any fast fashion for years, and I mainly thrift things that I need or want, or I make them myself. And for this one, I was like, it would be cool to sew my own coat, and I wanted to be like oversized, and I wanted to be long and like cozy, and also be a bit of a statement piece. If you've seen my videos where I do Pinterest mood boards of the style I'm envisioning to wear the coming months, maybe you've seen this video or you've seen this video, you have seen that I've been interested in finding something like this, and it can be hard to find like very particular pieces in the like local thrift store. Sometimes you can find more unique pieces if you go to like a more curated vintage store, and I honestly don't really have the money to do that. I really want to support every independent and cool store, but I just don't. I can't afford it for now. So I have to kind of figure it out myself. Looking for a pattern to a long coat was actually quite hard. I thought it would be easier, but most of the coats that I found were either like shorter or were like in a very unmodern and different style from what I was looking for. I went through like a bunch of magazines from Berda that I have thrifted. I went online and looked for coat patterns, and most of the coats for women, which is like the majority of patterns you find online are like clothes for women, they were fitted, like they were, and very like traditionally and not very modern looking. And I didn't want a fitted coat, I wanted like a straight oversized, like a chunky statement piece. And I've seen this a lot like in the like traditional higher end or Scandinavian brands, like they sell a lot of these coats that are oversized. For instance, I'm thinking about this Skal coat, and I think also Totem has made one, and probably all of the higher end Scandinavian brands or like more trendy Scandinavian brands have done like an oversized statement coat, but I just couldn't find a pattern for it. Eventually I found this pattern that is from Vikisews. I have sewn a couple of different patterns from Vikisews, and I find them to be very, very like classy and stylish and modern and fun, but they are usually a bit more difficult. They can be like super detailed sometimes, and then they just skip like 3 steps and you have no idea where you are. And I do think that's like a language barrier thing. sometimes when I read the instructions, they can be like super specific, and then they give you like words that, I mean, English is not my native language, but I consume a lot of like shows, TV shows and movies and stuff in English, so I think I'm kind of aware of what words are more like in trend or that we use more frequently, and then sometimes it can be like a very particular word that I have to kind of Google to understand what it means, and it means something super specific, and then you have to kind of figure out what that means in terms of a sewing pattern. So that was like sometimes a bit difficult, but I definitely think you should check out her patterns. This pattern was the closest to what I was thinking. I didn't want to just go and buy newly produced fabric, but I did find, there are a few actually stores online where you can buy dead stock fabrics, and this one is in wool. Maybe I don't really remember, I think it had like a little mix of something, but it's dead stock wool from a brand, I don't know which brand. And I was actually, the reason to why I bought it was because I wanted to make like a cushion daybed thingy with that fabric, but when it came I realized it was way too stretchy to use for that purpose, so I just had it in my drawer. When I found this coat, I was like, actually this fabric would really work on a coat, so that's what I used. I'm sorry about the light, the day has been cloudy until now, and now the sun decided to come out, which is lovely, but it makes it harder to film. As I was making this coat, I actually had a call with my coach that I had at the time, and I told her that I was so impressed of myself that I managed to finish a difficult project that took me longer time than what I'm used to. Usually when I make a blouse or pants or like a dress or something like that, it takes me a day, or sometimes I start it on the evening and then I finish it next day, or like it takes me, I mean, maybe 2 to 8 hours depending on the piece. But for this one, I mean, it took me a lot of sewing hours, but as I said, it also took me like a lot of time because I ran into issues and I was like, I don't understand the pattern. I have no idea what this piece is. I have no idea how to figure out the next step. So I was like, I felt very discouraged at many points during this project. But I talked to my coach and I was like, actually, we were talking about something else, and then I was like, actually, I have something that I want to show you. I just finished this coat and I'm so proud of it. And it also showed me that I'm capable of finishing off a project that I have started, instead of just like, because I was actually thinking about like handing it into like a store and have them like a professional seamstress finish it for me. But then I was like, no, I'm gonna stick through and I'm gonna make this coat. The lining is also thrifted. It's from like my local thrift store, and I found just enough to use as the lining. And I think this was also a very tricky part because you want I'm not used to making linings to my clothes, and I was a bit nervous about doing that, and it was actually a little tricky because it's silky, which is like, it's harder to sew in because it's flowy and silky and thin, and I'm using a machine from the 50s, which is probably not ideal all the time when I'm sewing the pieces that I'm sewing today. But it's very cool to have a coat where you can like recycle, repurpose, and find things in your thrift store and then kind of transform them into a new piece. So I was very happy to find this fabric that I used. It was quite tricky because it's not as fitted as I want it to be, but also I feel like it's good enough for a first coat, and I'm okay with it not being perfect. And I have a couple of details now. As I was trying it on, I was like, I wanna like make some stitches here to kind of make, I don't know what it's called. It's like where you close it, it kind of opens up a little bit, so I'm thinking about making a few stitches there to kind of have the different pieces stick together a little better. And now when we are in October, I'm so excited to start wearing it. It's definitely sweater weather outside now, and they have started selling the Smashing Pumpkins, I was gonna say, what is it called? Like pumpkin lattes in the coffee stores. So I think this is the season when we will start wearing coats that are like medium to thin or medium in warmth or in thickness. And eventually will be colder here in Scandinavia where I live. But for now, I'm super excited to start wearing it, and I think it's cool to have like a nice statement piece. I know I have, at least, and usually people think about like when they want to buy a coat or something, they go with like a black coat or maybe a navy coat, and they're like, this goes with everything. This means that I will wear it a long time, or you want to have something classic or something like that. But I also feel like we should wear more statement pieces, more like fun pieces, or at least pieces that says something. And I think this coat has more character than a fitted black coat that is like the normal coat. Also, I adjusted some things when I usually do that. I buy a pattern and then I'm like, oh, actually I think it would look better without this detail, or this doesn't fit my vibe, or this looks, I don't know, whatever. I just like adjusted it a little bit, and I removed the cuffs that were meant to go on the shoulder, and I also haven't made a belt. Maybe I will make a belt, but for now I think it's quite cool when it's like big and chunky, and I can wear a lot of sweaters underneath, and it can be open, because I think I prefer the style when it's open. But I might make a belt to it. I will also show you a photo of her coat. This is the coat as she intended it to be, and my coat is a little different. In terms of sizing, I think it's actually a little hard to tell sometimes from patterns, and also from Vikisews patterns, because usually they go a little smaller. So for this one I chose a size 40, but now in hindsight I realize I could have gone with a size 38 because it's so oversized. So I think it's like, if I would do it again, I would choose a smaller size because of the fitting. If you're gonna make something that is tighter, I would recommend to go maybe a size up. Definitely if you are between sizes. I'm usually between 36 and 38, like small, medium, depending on the brand and the style and so on. But for this one I would go with your normal size, or yeah, probably go with your normal size. And as I'm in between, that would have been 38 for me, but I went with 40 and it's a little big, but it's okay. And it's a cool coat. I'm proud that I made it. I feel cool wearing it, and actually I might go outside right now and have it on me and try it out. I hope you liked this very random video about the coat. And if you have any other suggestions on a video that you want me to film and like make for you, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments, like any video request. Doesn't have to be like a sewing project. It can be like the best wine bars in Copenhagen, or nice cities in Sweden, or reasons to why American politics are weird. Maybe not that one, that would be too controversial, but maybe something else. Let me know, and subscribe. Be a good sport and subscribe to my channel. Hope to see you soon again.